Hey boys and girls, this is a story I'm going to read to you called Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky. It's by Faith Ringgold. And sometimes it's nice to read the blurb on the back. So Faith Ringgold's Tar Beach earned the 1992 Coretta Scott King Award and was named a Caldecott Honor Book. Now Cassie and Bibi continue the flight in the rich and deeply textured Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky, learning of their great-great-grandparents' long journey from slavery to freedom, guided by the voice of Harriet Tubman. So this person, Faith Ringgold. She wrote Tar Beach, which I've read before. I don't know if you have or not, but this is a book. Again, it's by Faith Ringgold. That's the author. It's called Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky. All right, here we go. It's the title page. Pretty cool. You see 4 people. I see someone back here too, huh? See, there's 4 people. Whoa, look at that page. Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky by Faith Ringgold. One day, my baby brother Bibi and I were flying among the stars. Way, way up, so far up the mountains looked like pieces of rock candy and the oceans like tiny cups of tea. We came across an old ramshackled train in the sky. A tiny woman in a conductor's uniform appeared on the steps of the train and announced the schedule. All aboard, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Niagara Falls, Canada, all aboard, all aboard. Hundreds of bedraggled men, women, and children filled the sky and boarded the dusty old wooden train. No one spoke. It was like watching a silent movie. Come on, Cassie, Bibi said, jumping up on the train. Let's take a ride. Ooh, look. Go free north or die, it says up there, huh? Get off that train, Bibi. I'll tell Mommy and Daddy, and you will be in a world of trouble, I yelled. Here's Bibi, he's on the train. But the train quickly moved off through the sky and disappeared. All I could see now were flashing lights sending a threatening message through a sea of clouds. Go free north or die. Go free north or die. Go free north or die. That's what it says, huh, on there, and that's what it's saying down here. Bibi, come back. Mommy and Daddy will never forgive me for letting you go, I screamed. Then the woman conductor's voice came like a soft whisper in my ear. Hello, Cassie. I am Harriet Tubman. People call me Aunt Harriet because I take care of them. During slavery, I carried hundreds of men, women, and children to freedom on the Underground Railroad and never lost a passenger. Let me tell you about slavery, Cassie, Aunt Harriet said. We were brought here from Africa as slaves to work long hours on plantations for no pay. More of us died on the ships coming over than ever reached these shores. Wow. If we tried to escape and were caught, we might have a foot cut off or get sold away from our families, and then we never saw our families and friends again. A legal or church marriage was not allowed, so instead, a man and woman would jump the broom. So they weren't allowed to be married, so they would marry themselves, and instead they would jump the broom, it's called. It was against the law for a slave to learn to read or write. So they weren't allowed to be educated, to learn to read or write, like we all do today. Or have a meeting, or even preach the word of God. So they weren't allowed to meet. Every 100 years, that old train will follow the same route I traveled on the Underground Railroad so that we will never forget the cost of freedom. Sometimes the train is a farmer's wagon. Sometimes it's a hearse covered with flowers. Inside, a live slave hides in a coffin. You missed this train, Cassie, but you can follow, always one step behind. When we reach freedom in Canada, you will be reunited with BB. Cassie, though you can fly, being a slave will suck you to the ground like quicksand. You will have to walk many miles through the woods and waters on blistered feet, and there will be bounty hunters eager to collect the reward on your head. Follow the North Star. In daylight, look for moss growing on the side of the tree that faces north. Along the way, there will be Underground Railroad agents to give you a place to stay, clean clothes, and food. But until you reach Canada, you are not safe. Go and don't turn back. And remember, if you are caught, you will be severely punished. Wow. So, along that way, that she was trying to reach Canada in order to be safe from having to go back into slavery. First, you must escape from the slave plantation. Tell no one. Wait until nightfall so you will not be seen. Then follow the trail through the woods to a gray farmhouse on the river. Your first night will be the hardest. Listen carefully to the song of the birds. When you are in danger, their song will become screams that only you can hear. Then you must stop and head in the opposite direction. When you lie down to rest, you will hear me sing the old spiritual, "Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land. Tell, O Pharaoh, let my people go." Let me lullaby you to sleep. When I stop singing and you hear the birds scream, wake up and move on. Well, I reached the gray house on the river. I slept in the farmer's attic. It was dark and scary. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like gray ghosts, but the farmer and his wife were very kind. There was a note under the pillow. "Dear Cassie, I am very frightened, but I am a big boy and I will not turn back. Love, BB." Then Aunt Harriet's voice came like a gust of wind. So here she is. She's escaped the slave plantation, and she did go to the gray farmhouse, and she's waiting there. You can see these are nice people who are helping her to be able to escape slavery. They'll get in trouble if she's found there too. Follow the river north till you reach the clapboard house with green shutters and a red brick chimney. There will be a blind railroad agent who will ask you to sing a song. You will sing, "Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land. Tell, O Pharaoh, let my people go." She will give you food and a place to sleep. By nightfall, you must be on your way through the woods. So look, she's got to go now to the next house, the next place to be safe. I found BB's baseball cap floating in a swamp. It was worn to shreds. I squeezed the mud out of it. "Leave the cap, Cassie," Aunt Harriet's whispering voice said. "Go on to the weather-beaten frame house with a star quilt flung on the roof. If you don't see the quilt, hide in the woods until it appears. Then it'll be safe to go in. The next night, follow the road to the bridge several miles away." So you can see Cassie goes to the next house, and if she finds the quilt on the roof, then it's safe to go in. I traveled through the woods and swamps. I was cold, wet, and very hungry, but I could not turn back. When I reached the bridge, I hid in a graveyard on a hill overlooking the river. It was there I found BB's toy soldiers and a set of his baseball cards buried alongside the grave of a boy BB's age. I was too afraid to cry. I lay awake till I heard Aunt Harriet's familiar whisper. "Wait for a railroad agent disguised as a grave digger. He will say, 'I bring you a ticket for the railroad.'" Now the tears streaming down my cheeks like rain. I would see BB soon, soon, soon. In a tiny yellow house on the edge of the city, a little girl my age gave me a ticket for a steam car and sewed a fake pass to freedom she had made on my undershirt. It read, Cassie Lewis Lightfoot, free born in New York. Show that to anyone who tries to take you back to the slaves' plantation, she said. So they made her special clothes with that on the inside of it, of the shirt. I reached the back door of a shoemaker's house and knocked 3 times. That time I slept in a secret room behind a bookcase. Bebe had been there and left another note. Dear Cassie, I have a new baby sister. She was born today. Her name is Freedom. Her mother got sick and went to heaven. She let me carry baby Freedom on my back. Love, Bebe. After a few days' rest, I started out again with new shoes the shoemaker made me. Move on, Cassie, Aunt Harriet's voice told me. You are very close to the border of the free state of Pennsylvania. Look for the letter P written on a rock facing north. But still, beware of bounty hunters. They can kidnap you at any time. Until you reach Canada, you are not safe. In New York, a bookbinder hid me in a secret compartment he had built into his wagon. In a downpour of rain, he delivered me to a funeral parlor. There was a funeral going on, so no one noticed me. The undertaker gave me a withered rose Bebe had left, pressed in a book with a note. Dear Cassie, we stayed at the house of a millionaire. He gave Aunt Harriet a bunch of money. We will never be hungry again. Love, Bebe. The undertaker gave me a fresh-cut rose, hid me in a coffin in his hearse, and took me to Niagara Falls. Now, I was just over the bridge from Canada. Wow. Niagara Falls looked like a giant tea party with a billion cups of steaming hot tea being poured to a resounding applause. The steam from the falls formed a soft blanket that lifted me up above the falls and across the bridge to Canada. I could fly. I was free. I wonder if that's how she's feeling. Like when you're free, like you're feeling like you could fly. I could see Aunt Harriet and Bebe with baby Freedom still tied to his back, the passengers on the Underground Railroad, the women all dressed in white, flying in a huge circle around them. We're free. We have shook the lion's paw, Aunt Harriet yelled in a voice that shot through the air like a joyous bolt of lightning. Go down, Moses, Bebe said, and let my people go, the others sang. I kissed Bebe over and over and made him promise he'd never leave me again. I love you, Cassie, but I had to go, Bebe said. Freedom is more important than just staying together. And what's more, I got to ride on the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman. Now I know what our great-great-grandparents survived when they were children. That day was a big feast and a quilt celebrating the 100th anniversary of Harriet Tubman's first flight to freedom hung in the sky. People came to eat, dance, and sing praise to Aunt Harriet for taking us from slavery to freedom and for being the Moses of her people. Look at that, celebrating 1849 to 1949, 100th anniversary of the Underground Railroad. That's the end of the story. Now, what's nice about the back of this is it talks a lot about Harriet Tubman and about the Underground Railroad. The book really was showing you Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad in the sky, was showing you what people had to do if they were a slave and if they wanted to try and leave a slave plantation, all the things they'd have to go through to go north. So here's showing you the Underground Railroad. So in the southern part of the United States back then, there was slavery, And you can see the people were fleeing the South and trying to go north. This is the northern part of the United States, and here's Canada. So they were trying to get up into Canada. These were slave states, and these were free states where people were not slaves. This is all the United States, but they were trying to get up into Canada. This is some of the many routes taken by slaves traveling on the Underground Railroad. I'm reading this part here. Harriet Tubman began many of her journeys near the plantation in Bucktown, Maryland. So you can see here's Bucktown, Maryland. So a lot of her journeys began there. Maryland, where she was born, traveling north through Wilmington, Delaware, and on to Niagara Falls. Here's Niagara Falls. And St. Catharines in Canada. So she was trying to get to St. Catharines, this place right here. Here's Niagara Falls. You got to get across the river there where the falls are to get to the other side. So here it's showing you the gray is slave states, and the ones that are not colored in are the free states. So this talks about Harriet Tubman a little bit. Harriet Tubman was born a slave in about 1820 in Bucktown, Maryland. Her father taught her to hunt, swim, imitate bird calls, and survive in the woods. Her mother taught her nursing skills and how to use herbs for medicine. Though Harriet could neither read nor write, with these survival skills, she escorted over 300 slaves to freedom on 19 trips on the Underground Railroad without ever losing a passenger. Among them were her aged mother and father and all her brothers and sisters. The Underground Railroad was a network of people and hiding places. The first accounts of slaves escaping on the Underground Railroad date from as far back as 1787. Harriet Tubman's own escape north was made in 1849. Oh, that's why it's in the book, huh? With the help of a Quaker woman whom she had encountered on the road near the plantation fields. The woman directed Harriet to a house of a German farmer and his wife. With their assistance and that of many other conductors, Harriet reached freedom in Canada. She returned to become a conductor herself, guiding groups of slaves north through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York to Canada, where the government refused to return former slaves to the American masters. She traveled mainly at night, sang songs as signals to other people, and carried a pistol to defend herself. Slave traders placed bounties ranging from $10,000 to $40,000 on Harriet's head. Yikes, that's a lot of money back then for slave traders wanting her caught, right? So that she wouldn't be able to free slaves. As a young girl, Harriet was gravely injured when she was struck by a weight thrown by a slave master. Ouch. The injury left her marked for life and caused her to have frequent blackouts, which could last anywhere from a few seconds to several hours. This strange malady persisted throughout her life, but never diminished her courage or impeded her victorious flights to freedom. While ill and near death, she had strange dreams of flying to freedom. With the aid of a circle of ladies dressed in white, in Aunt Harriet's Underground Railroad in the sky, I used this dream, as well as the slave custom of throwing a quilt over the roof of a house for good luck, for its visual clarity. The route by which Harriet Tubman took her passengers to freedom forms the structure of the book. I use some of the actual stops or stations, though not the exact persons or conductors. The real conductors were white sympathizers, free-born Negroes, and escaped slaves, many of whom were women. They embraced every religion and none. Some important conductors were John Fairfield, who belonged to a Virginia slaveholding family and who posed as a slave trader, the Quaker Thomas Garrett, who ran a station in Wilmington, Delaware, known for comfort for all who could reach it, William Still, a coal merchant, free-born in Pennsylvania, Garrett Smith in New York, a millionaire philanthropist, Stephen Myers, a Negro book publisher who kept records of escaped slaves, and the Reverend J.W. Logan, himself an escaped slave. On the western escape route that went through Cincinnati, Ohio, Levi Coffin, a Quaker, helped more than 3,000 slaves to freedom. When runaways got as near as the border as Rochester, New York, Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass, also a runaway slave in 1838, assisted them in making the last jump into Canada, calling the Promised Land by some slaves, or called the Promised Land by some slaves. During the Civil War, Harriet Tubman served as a nurse, a spy, and a commander of intelligence operations for the Union Army. She was unique in that she commanded forces of men, both black and white, and was never captured. Nonetheless, she was denied a war pension, although she did receive a war widow's pension when her husband, Nelson Davis, died in 1888. Harriet's autobiography, called Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman, was dictated to Sarah Bradford and published in 1869. A revised edition was published under the title Harriet, the Moses of Her People in 1886. Harriet's door was always open to those in need. She died on March 10th, 1913 in Auburn, New York. She was given a full military funeral. And this is written by Faith Ringgold, who is the woman who wrote this book. So a little bit about Harriet Tubman, a little bit from the author about why she picked certain things in the book, and just a little bit more about Harriet Tubman in her later years. Very interesting. So this is a fiction book, right? But it's about something that really happened. It's about Harriet Tubman and her working to help people that were slaves become free. So this is called Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad in the Sky. Again, it's by Faith Ringgold. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a little bit by reading that. Some books make us think and wonder. Some books teach us things. Some books are for entertainment, and sometimes it's all of those in one. So I hope you like this book. Again, you can get it from our library and pick it up anytime. Just put books on hold, and those can end up in your hands to read yourself. I hope you like the book. I hope you're enjoying your own reading too. What are you reading today?